Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purana Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurti Chaitanyam Sarvagam Sarvam Sarvabhuta Guhashayam Yat Sarva Vishayatitam Tasmai Sarva Vide Namaha. एवं विध आत्मतत्व परिज्ञाने सति कैवल्यम फलति. When Atma Jnanam, knowledge of Atma Tattva of this nature, when it takes place, Kaivalyam, absoluteness, non-duality, total freedom, Phalati, that's the result of that knowledge. Aham Param Brahma Vinishchayatma Drang Najayate Bhuyeti Shruter Vajah. This is what Shruti clearly says. Vinishchayatmadruk. Atmadruk, one was the Atma Darshanam, the knowledge of Atma, the conviction of Atma, Vinishchaya Atmadruk. One who has a firm conviction about one's own self. It is said we always have a perception about ourselves as to who I am, because self is self-revealing, and therefore I always have knowledge or experience of myself. Along with that, I also have a judgment about myself, self-judgment. You can call it nischaya, the conviction about myself, judgment about myself, perception about myself, opinion about myself. Meaning that at every moment, in my opinion, I know who I am. Aham Param Brahma. When that conviction or opinion or perception changes to Aham Brahma, and that change has to take place. We have to create in our mind a condition where this change takes place. Because Aham Brahma, that I am Brahman, is a reality about myself. I don't want to create that reality, I don't want to become Brahma. Esha sarveshu bhuteshu godhotmana prakashate. Even though Brahma is my nature, na prakashate, the self does not reveal itself as Brahman, as though it does. But my mind distorts that manifestation, and creates in me this notion that I am a Jivatma. That is what is done by the mind because of ignorance, etc. And therefore, for this perception to change, a transformation has to happen in the mind. When the mind does not distort the manifestation of the self. Like a mirror which is wavy that distorts the reflection of myself. What with the crack in the mirror, how that distorts the reflection? My face is not distorted. But then the distortion in the mirror appear to be the distortions in my face. And not being able to distinguish between the two, that this part belongs to the self, this part belongs to the mirror, I conclude that I have a wavy face, a distorted face, etc. Similarly, because of the rajas and tamas in my mind creates, you call it a reflection of the self. As a limited being, as an incomplete being, as therefore an unhappy being. This is what the mind does. Even when my conclusion is that I am an unhappy person, I happen to be happiness in nature. Nature doesn't change. Thank God. That mirror does not bring about any change in my face. So also the mind does not bring about any change in the nature of the self. Unfortunately, even though the self is limitless, that is not the basis of my conviction. The basis of my conviction is how the mind makes me appear. How the mirror reflects my face, that is how I conclude about my face. And therefore, that mind has to be transformed such that it reflects my face or myself as I am. That is called purification of mind. As the mind changes, the conviction about myself also changes automatically. If the mirror gets transformed, the appearance of my face will change, and automatically my conviction or conclusion about how my face is will also change. So this Vinishchaya, this conviction takes place as the mind sees the self or as the mind experiences the self. Aham Param Brahma. That this knowledge or this teaching that you are Brahman enables me not to give reality to the conclusion of my mind. My mind keeps on coming up with this opinion or conclusion, I am a Jivatma, then I subject that to the scrutiny of my understanding, says no. And secondly, the mind also is made to undergo the process of purification. Those aspects of the mind that distort the perception, the rajas and tamas, which are generally called ragadveshas, have to be treated. And that's how ultimately my conviction about myself then is in alignment with what my true nature is. Drushyate tu agraya buddhya sukshmaya sukshmadarshibhi. When the mind also becomes Sukshmadarshi, is able to see becomes subtle. And Agram Ekagram, when there is purification of mind and the focus of the mind, then conviction automatically takes place. The conviction is in keeping with how I perceive myself. Yes, I may not give reality to my conviction because of my learning and because of Shravanam. And therefore I will not be guided by what my mind says. That's a big thing. But ultimately what my mind says has to change also. It has to become the new habit. न जायते भूयति श्रुतेर्वचः. So that is how there is no yasmat bhuyo na jayate. Sadhu tat padam apno. He attains that padam, that goal, that destination, that state from which one is not born again. Meaning that state or that perception, that knowledge about myself, that I am birthless. Nachaiva BJP asadi prajayate phalam. The birth is a result of my false perception of myself. When that perception changes, the birth which is a resultant of that perception also will change. The phalam cannot be unless the bijam is there. So bijam, the seed, is my perception of myself, that I am a limited being. When it is my perception that I am a limited being, there is naturally an impulse to become free from limitation, because I cannot accept the limitation of myself. Therefore, a desire to become free from limitation automatically arises. It is a desire which is behind all the desires, is what propels the next birth, because this birth is for the purpose of fulfilling that desire or agenda of becoming free. When the bija of desire is not there, I want to become free because freedom now has become reality, then there is no birth, because the purpose is not there. There is a purpose behind our birth, and that is to fulfill the agenda. What's the agenda? To become free. Nijanmasti tato hi amohata. Yasmad amohata. Amohata, the state of amoha. Moha, aviveka, illusion, false notion. Amoha means the right notion. Amohata, the state of right knowledge. When that is there, the seed of wrong knowledge is gone. The wrong knowledge was a seed, wrong perception was a seed for birth. When that is gone in the wake of the right knowledge, then that very cause giving rise to birth is not there anymore. The janma is therefore there is no janma, no punarjanma. So amohata, absence of moha, absence of distorted perception, wrong perception, misapprehension. Like seeing the rope as a snake is called moha. So what is that moha about myself? What wrong notions or perceptions am I entertaining about myself? Which perceptions cause in me a sense of limitation and a desire to become free from limitation, and the next verse and so forth. Mamedamitham cha tathedamiddusham. Mama, from aham comes mama. Prathamam dehadve ahankaraha. What ignorance does is creates ahankara, identification, dehadvaya, with gross and subtle bodies. Therefore, sense of confinement. Identification, I get confined to what I identify with. While watching a movie, I identify with the actor which is in the screen, who is on the screen, then I become that. As to confine myself to that. Therefore, identification of the body means that I have confined myself to the body. I identify with that. That determines my identity. So, sense of aham, individuality comes. Then what is related to aham, mamakara, the ownership comes. Then, since I am confined to this body, dvaya, therefore, what is outside the body becomes idam. Aham, idam. Subject, object, duality. Then opinion about aham, opinion about idam. Idam ittam, tatha idam idrusham. So idam ittam, idam is like this, only ittam. Idrusham, this nature. Aham evam, aham like of this nature. Na paraha, there is no one like me. Nava anyatha, I am not like someone else, etc. Moment the aham comes, then all, and idam also comes. Aham comes, mama comes. Aham comes, idam comes. Two independent, it's two separate things. Mama is what is related to aham. Idam is object of aham. Subject, object, divided get created. Vimudata, this is called mohata or vimudata. What say mohata in the earlier verse is called vimudata. So, vividham mudatvam, various kind of notions are there. Evam janasya kalpana, all these conclusions about myself, which in turn bring conclusions about things that I consider different from myself. Janasya kalpana, all this kalpana, projection of jana, of an ignorant person. Jana is explained as Janmadi Yogi. Jana. From Jan, to be born. Jana Janmadi Yogi, one who is subject to birth. That is Jivatma. These are all kalpanas, projections of Jivatma. It's called moha. That's how moha prevails in our life and controls us, defines us. Sada same brahmani chadve shive na. This is not there. In the self, there is sada same, which is always the same. Brahmani, who is Brahman. Advaya, who is non-dual. Shiva of Ananda Swarupa. In the self, there is I. There is no existence of any of these things. All kalpanas. So we can sit and look at our own mind and see what kalpanas we entertain. I am so and so. This is mine. That's not mine. It's like this, not like that. And even that doesn't matter. But likeable, dislikable, whatever it is, it doesn't matter to me. When the opinion connects me, like you're helpful, not helpful, hurtful, likeable, when that idam creates this kind of an opinion about me, it is always the opinion about me which is the cause of my happiness or unhappiness. So, mama, idam, all imagined things, they in turn create now an opinion or perception about me that causes sukha dukkha. There is no existence. All of these are at the level of the upadhi. And upadhi being equated to Atma. The costume is there, the actor also is there. As long as the viveka is there, this is actor, I am actor, and this is costume, so long no problem. All vyavahara can go on. Idam ittha, everything can go on. Moment the costume is equated to aham, then all the problems come. Now continuing. The Tikakara says in introduction to verse 12, Evam vichitrasya samsarasya Atma tattva jnanena tadajnana nivritya nivrittim uktam sphutayati. Evam vichitrasya samsarasya. Samsara, which is vichitra, variegated. Aham idam, idam itham, aham evam. So, opinion about aham keeps on changing, the opinion about idam also keeps on changing. And that opinion in turn also establishes a new relation. You follow? So this is such and I am such, and that establishes a relation. And a reaction from me of sukha dukkha. As long as the kalpana is there, the kalpana will keep on changing, the relation will keep on changing, and my reactions also will keep on changing. Atma tattva jnanena tadajnana nivritya nivrittihi. Samsarasya nivrittihi. The cessation, elimination of samsara can be there. Samsara is phalam. And there is the bijam of the cause of the samsara. What is that? Atma tattva jnanam. Ignorance of the true nature of self, which brings about kalpanas. This self-ignorance is a unique kind of ignorance. It is not simply absence of knowledge, not jnana bhava, but viparita jnanam. It causes the viparita jnanam, meaning that causes a distorted or a false perception. Atma tattva jnanena tadajnana nivritya. So we have to negotiate ourselves through all the vichitra samsara. So it's called it is like an ocean. So Vedanta becomes boat, the Guru becomes the navigator, etc. And we keep on analyzing every concept or kalpana that takes place in the mind. And recognize how ignorance is involved, how this is a kalpana. This opinion about myself and opinion about others, all of this kalpana arising from the ignorance of the true nature of myself. So kalpana has to be recognized as kalpana. Before that it cannot go. Recognizing kalpana as kalpana is understanding ignorance, how ignorance prevails in my life, how ignorance defines my life, controls my life. So first understand ignorance. That was the previous verse was there. Vichitrasya samsarasya. How ignorance creates is variegated. If the notion was constant, I can deal with it perhaps. Keeps changing. Ahankara vimudhatma kartahamiti manyate. Vimudhatma. Vividena muda atma yasya, the one whose mind is variously deluded. Because I keep on shifting the identification. We call it the gross body, all right. We call it the subtle body, but that itself is a very complex entity. In gross body also, sometimes identification of the head, then one kind of notion. Identification of nose, another kind of notion. Eyes, third kind of notion. My belly, fourth kind of notion, etc., etc. There also the identification changes. Height, weight, whatever. And what of subtle body, the mind, constantly changes. That being a case, my notion about myself also constantly changes. And that in turn also brings about a change in notion about others, and my conclusions and my reactions and happiness and unhappiness. First we understand life in the samsara. How in fact a play is going on by the mind. When we understand that, half the job is done. Understanding the problem is half the job done. Half the battle won, they say. Knowing the enemy is half the battle won. So we will pay attention to this. Before reacting, before acting, before doing anything, what is prompting me to do this? Who is I that is doing it? Who is the mind? Who is the idam? What is my present conclusion about aham, mama, idam? That's what makes me think about, that's conclude about myself and everything, and that's what makes me do things. It's a nice game going on. And because we do not think, this is called avichara, lack of vichara, or wrong vichara. So paying attention, understanding all this play that is going on. We are controlled by the play because we give reality to the play. Atma tattva jnanena tadajnana vritya. So thus we have to bring to play our understanding, not just remains here. Our life shows no reflection of this understanding. It all remains in the classroom. But all of this meant to live life. All very enjoyable, no doubt about it, but then it is much more value than that. Ajnana will not go unless I understand ajnanam first. And then bring it jnana viveka. Ajnana means aviveka. And when I bring atma and atma viveka, then alone jnanam can go. Tad jnana vritya samsarasya nivrittim uktam sphutayati. That when there is cessation of ignorance, then ignorance is bijam, samsara is phalam, karanam, karyam goes away when karanam is removed. Sphutayati. Already stated, uktam clarifies. Next one says, verse 12. Yadadvayam jnanam ativa nirmalam Mahatmanam tatra na shoka mohata tayorabhave nahi janma karma va bhavedayam veda vidam vinischayah. Ayam veda vidam vinischayah. This is the nischaya, the conviction, the firm conviction. Veda Vedam, of the knowers of Veda, knowers of Vedanta, knowers of the self. Tatra Shoka Mohata. There Shoka and Moha is not there. They don't exist. Where? Yadadvayam Jnanam Ativa Nirbalam Mahatmanam. When for the Mahatmas, the people of Mahanatma, great soul, the Jnanam Yadadvayam Ativa Nirmalam Jnanam. The knowledge also is in keeping with the nature of the self. Sarvadvayam ativa nirmalam mahatmanam jnanam tatra na shoka mohata. This knowledge, light and darkness cannot coexist anywhere. All these notions called samsara is ajnanam, darkness, cannot exist where the light of knowledge is. Na shoka mohata tayo abhave. Absence of shoka and moha, shoka moha yo abhave. Nahi janma karmavad, and there is no birth and there is no karma. Bhavet. I am Veda Vidam Vinishchaya. This is the firm conviction of the knowers of Veda. This has been forgotten. So, Advayam Jnanam Ativa Nirmalam. Advayam, the Tika says, Advayatma Karam. Advaya is a description of Atma, is the nature of Atma. Advayam Jnanam, non-dual knowledge is Advayatma Karam Jnanam. Knowledge of the nature of the Atma, which is Advaya. Knowledge of the non-dual Atma. Advayam Jnanam, Advayatma Karam Jnanam. Knowledge of Advayatma. So Jnanam also is Atma Karam, nature of Atma. Atma Kara Vritti. Ativa Nirmalam. Atma is Nirmalam, the Jnana also should be Nirmalam. So what's a mala or impurity in Jnanam? Asambhavana, viparita bhavana, pratibandharahitam. There is Jnanam, sat pratibandhakam Jnanam. Knowledge with pratibandha, with obstacles. Asambhavana, samsaya bhavana, viparita bhavana. I can't be Brahman, asambhavana. Sometimes I think I am Brahman, sometimes no, I am Jivatma, samsaya bhavana. Or I am Jivatma, viparita bhavana. The pratibandha rahitam, so these are the pratibandhas. The obstacles in true knowledge is ignorance actually. Ignorance manifests as asambhavana, samsaya bhavana, viparita bhavana. So knowledge has to be made free from these obstacles or impurities. Ativa nirmalam yajnanam. Jnanam ativa nirmalam. Totally pure means totally free from these pratibandhakas or obstacles. In as much as the obstacles are the products of ignorance, it is possible to remove them by knowledge. Obstacles are ignorance or darkness, so it is possible to remove them by light of knowledge. Tatra na shoka mohata. Tatra seventh case, tasmin sadi, when, not there but when, that is when this knowledge is. Because in the knowledge or when the knowledge is, na shoka mohata mahatmana. Mahatmanam, Brahma Bhutanam, whose Atma has become Mahan, has become vast as Brahman. So those whose Atma, whose knowledge of Atma, understanding of Atma, conviction of Atma has become Brahman. न शोक मोहता संसारित्वम नास्त्यव इत्यर्थः. दिस महात्मा शोक and moha is not there, samsaritva is not there. तथा च मंत्र है तत्र को मोहः कशोकः एकत्वम अनुपश्यत इति. So again this mantra is here reiterated, इसको अनुवाद है. So these shlokas are all restating what is stated in the Shruti. So this shloka also restates in its own words what is stated in the mantra of the Shruti, tatra ko moha kashokaha ekatvam anupashyata tatra. Tatra is there or at that time or when that happens. Ekatvam anupashyata. One who sees ekatvam, the non-duality, duality being the result of identification of upadhi. It is not that you see non-duality where there is duality. Karmani akarmayah pashyet. See inaction in action. Is not that in action we see inaction. Or seeing action as inaction. Either the adhikarana saptami or vishaya saptami. Seeing action in inaction, or see inaction as action, action as inaction, no. What is thought to be action is inaction. So when that knowledge takes place, that is all projection, duality is projection. Then duality meaning division. Then I exclude others, I am excluded. That case, sense of limitedness, that is the cause of shoka. Shoka or grief arises from my perception of myself. There is no other reason. Even the Arjuna may think that cause of his grief was the possible death of Bhishma, Drona and others. That's not the point. Bhishma and Drona's death is an event. Only when there is if that causes grief, it should cause grief in everybody, isn't it? But that will cause grief in Arjuna because aham esham mama ete, there is aham mama relationship there. Guru natvaya mahanubhavan, they are mahanubhavas. So that is how the death of Bhishma and Drona got connected, Arjuna connected himself with this death. That in their presence I am so and so, I am safe and sound and well taken care of and loved. When they will not be there, who will be there to love me, protect me, nourish me, nurture me? In their absence, he sees himself as lacking, incomplete. Is that self, the lacking self, the self deprived of love, affection, nurturing, however he relates to Bhishma and Drona? The thought of Bhishma and or Drona will create in him a sense of security, sense of acceptance, sense of taken care of, etc. A shelter. So along with the idea of Bhishma and Drona is the idea of I understand. Sheltered I am, taken care of I am, nurtured I am. nourished I am, secure I am. I don't know how Arjuna thinks, but if Bhishma and Drona's death creates in him the shuka, then this must be how it must be. He is secure, and that creates self-acceptance and therefore happiness. Therefore, the presence of Bhishma and Drona creates a comfort about myself because I am all right in their presence. As long as they are there, nothing to worry about. Security is there, nourishment is there, being loved is there. There will be loss of all of that when Bhishma and Drona are not there. So therefore Arjuna, without that advantage of security, of nourishment, of affection, of love, the Arjuna lacking all of that creates a grief, understand? Arjuna possessed of those things creates happiness. Arjuna lacking those things creates grief. So ultimately it is self that is the cause of happiness, meaning perception of self, and perception of self that is the cause of unhappiness. When that perception changes, when I learn, I understand and know who I am, that I am independent entity, not defined by somebody else or something else. And therefore, I am what I am regardless of who else is there or not there. That I am nature of security, well-being by myself. If thus my perception changes, I become free, independent, which I am. No shuka. First moha is there, it causes shuka. And shuka causes moha again. Moha is fundamental ignorance and misconception. That causes shuka. The shuka causes moha about the vyavharik, the situation. Ekatvam anupashyatah. Bhishma, Drona not different from me. Meaning that the nourishment, nurture, love which I think Bhishma and Drona are giving me is already my nature. Understand? That's the perception. That's how change is. Perception is changed. Then there is no cause of shuka or moha. Tatra na shoka mohata. तयोर अभावे नहीं जन्म कर्म वा तयोर शोक मोह अभावे. When shuka and moha are not there, तद उपलक्षितस्य तत्कारणस्य अज्ञानस्य निवृत्तौ. When will nivritti or cessation of shuka moha take place? When its cause is removed. Shuka and moha are the effect, karyam. They will go, they will cease to be there only when karyam, the jnana nivritti takes place. So shuka, moha, nivritti presupposes the ajnana nivritti. The cessation of effect happens when there is cessation of cause. Tad upalakshitasya. So by shuka and moha, what is targeted or intended is ajnana. Tat karanasya ajnanasya nivrittau. The cessation of shuka moha takes place when is karanam, ajnanam ceases to be there. Bija bhave phala bhavanyayana. When bija, the cause is not there, phala, the effect is not there. These are all bija. Ajnana is bija, shoka moha is phalam. Shoka moha is bija, janma is phalam. So bija bhava nyayana, बीजभाव फलभाव न्यायेन जन्मादि पुनः नहीं भवेत्. Then the cause is not there, shoka moha, then janma also is not there. Shoka moha comes from a sense of incompleteness about oneself. And they desire to be complete, therefore the shoka moha is sense of incompleteness. As long as that is there, that keeps on prompting me the next birth. इति वेदा वेद विदाम वेदार्थ विदाम विनिश्चय है. Knows of Veda means what? Knows of the meaning of Veda, tatparya of Veda. Not just the words of Veda, but what the Vedas in fact seek to convey. Tatha Shruti. So Shruti is already quoted. Tatra komo kashoga. But na janma karma hi. For that this is quoted. Vidyate hridaya grandhi छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशयाः क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि तस्मिन् दृष्टे परावरे. तस्मिन् परावरे दृष्टे में परे avara is para. Avara is inferior, the jiva is nothing but para Brahman. Where identity of jiva and Brahma is not seen. Vidyate hridaya grandhi, the knots of the heart, ahankara, mamakara, where atma, anatma, granthi is there. Atma, identity with anatma is called atma, anatma, granthi. Identification is kalpana, so it can go away. Vidyate hridaya grandhi, छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशयाः. All the doubts because of ignorance, they are all gone. Kshiyante chasya karmani. All karmas were because of the sense of kartrutva, ahankara, mamakara. Karma has no scope now. Meaning when it becomes total, so this karma is a cause of janma. Janma is karma phala. Kshiyante chasya, that is more important aspect here. That नहीं जन्म कर्म वा भवेत्. So karma va na bhavet, karma is not there, so janma is not there. Tasmin dushte paravare, when that knowledge is there of aham brahmasmi, then shoka moha is not there, karma is not there, punarjanma is not there. एवं उक्तस्य आत्मविद स्वरूपमाह. This knower of the self who was described here, जीवन मुक्त है. What is his swarupa? What's the nature of Atmavid or the knower of the self? So next verse says, सुषुप्तवज्जाग्रतयो न पश्यति द्वयन्तु पश्यन्नपि चाद्वयत्वतः तथा च कुर्वन्नपि निष्क्रियश्च यः स आत्मविन्नान्य इतीह निश्चयः. सुषुप्तवत, like a person is sleeping, यह जागृति न पश्यति. Just as a sleeper does not see anything, so also the wise person does not see anything even when he is awake. You mean he doesn't see anything? Dvayam tu pashyan. He sees with the organs of perception, he does see the duality or the variety. Napi. But what is the character of the sleeping person? He does not see duality. So wise person, even while awake, does not see duality because of his knowledge of non-advaita. Secondly, the sleeper does not do anything. No kartrutva. Kurvan napi, here, wise person appears to perform actions in waking, still doesn't perform actions. Sa Atmavit, he is the. So that description of Atmavit, the knower of the self, Nanya, other than the one, is not Atmavit. Other than this one is not Atmavit. So Tika says, Jagrati Vishwavasthaya Dvayam Pashyannapi na pashyati. Jagrat Vehicle is called Vishwa. Vishwavasthaya, when is the vehicle? Everybody is sleeping actually as far as sleep of ignorance is concerned. Yata supto na kanchana kamam kamayate na kanchana swapnam pashyati tat sushuptam. So when there is kamana, when there is projection, already sushupti is there in terms of ignorance, of the nature of ignorance. In ignorance alone, the three states are there: waker, dreamer, deep sleeper. So Vishwavasthaya, the state of Vishwa, the waker. Dvayam na pashyati, dvaita prapancham na pashyati, does not see the dvaita prapancha, the world of duality. He sees. Sense organs create an appearance of the world of duality or variety. Prag vasanavasat pashyannapi. So he, whenever he perceives through sense organs will make him aware of the varieties, and therefore he sees the variety. Ullikhannapi, even though Ullekha is there, he might even talk about it, mention it. Visheshadaha na pashyati, doesn't give reality to that. Seeing through eyes or sense organs of perception is one thing, and giving reality is a different thing. When I am standing in front of parallel mirrors, I see lots of many Swamis, but I see many, but don't give reality. Whereas the bird that is in front of a mirror will keep on pecking, thinking there's another bird inside. Or a child also may think there's another child inside. So seeing is not a problem. Conclusion is a problem. Na pashyati, seeing the duality also, he does not give reality to duality. Then how does he? Kintu sushuptavat pravilina prapancha pratyagatma swarupena pashyati yojana. He sees all of this pratyagatma. In the waking also, he sees the words pratyagatma, pralina prapancha, and from it the prapancha is pralinam. What the organs of perception and mind present before me is prapancha. What the intellect and knowledge says, hey, this prapancha is not there. What is Atma? Prapancha is there, Atma is there. Prapancha is not there, Atma is there. Then what is Atma? Prapancha is coming and going. Tatra hetu advait tattva dvaidasya bhadi tattvat. Doesn't give reality dvaitam because bhadi tattva in sushupti is not there and it changes constantly. So dvaitam na pashyati meaning does not give reality to dvaitam. Even though perception would take place at the level of sense organs, because vyavahara is there for the wise person also, but doesn't give reality to the duality. तथा यथा पूर्वम स्नान शौच भिक्षाटनादि कुर्वन्नपि. As in Purva Ashrama, he continues to perform actions as snana, shaucha, bhikshatanadi. This daily routine is done. Na pashyati. Now he doesn't see himself as the karmani akarmaya pashyat. Formerly while bathing, he perceived himself as a bather. While begging bhiksha, he looked upon himself as a bhikshuka because of identification with the costume. Nishkriya, now no identification, therefore actionless I am in spite of action. Nirvikara, akartvatma bhava avirbhava swava avirbhavat. Akarta Atma is always there. But the mind superimposes the kartrutva upon that, therefore akarta Atma is not able to assert itself. Akartru Atma so avirbhavat. Because kartrutvam is not there, therefore this svabhava of akartrutvam, therefore he doesn't do anything. What I am is what I perceive myself to be. That's what it means. I am a karta if I think I am a karta. Akarta if I know I am a karta. That's all. So now he sees himself as a karta. So that's what he is. Yes, आत्मवित् न अन्यः इति यह निश्चय है. यह एवं विदः है. The one who is like this always is advait pratah because of only perception of the self, of pratyekatma. Everything else is coming and going. And that does not, the pratyekatma's perception not displays the whole idea here. Right now when I see the world or duality, the non-dual is displaced by that. But when my knowledge of myself becomes firm, when there are no asambhavana, viparita bhavana, all the pratibandhas are not there, then vyavahara in duality doesn't have to displace the knowledge of non-duality. Vyavahara takes place because of old samskaras. The Vyavahara creates the Viparita Bhavana. That is, world is real and I am Jiva. Or Samshaya Bhavana, Abhavana. How can I be? So Vyavahara is not a problem. The Abhavana, Samshaya Bhavana, Viparita Bhavana, Vyavahara doesn't create that. My own mind creates it because of ignorance, because of projection. Evam Vida, the one who is of this nature, whose mind no more projects. Sa Atmavit, he alone is the knower of the self, who remains firmly established in the self, even though appearing to function in the duality. Guna vartante tyeva yo tishtati nengate. Now this is a play of the guna. And therefore, naingate doesn't get deviated from his true nature. Vikshep dashayam api aprachyuta vyavahar aprachyuta atmayatharna darshanatvat. Vikshep dashayam, in this vikshepa, means when there is the world of duality. This vikshepa is not vikshepa, this is vikshepa of Ishvara. When universe is also vikshepa, projection of Ishvara. His own vikshepa is no more there. His vikshepa was to give reality to the world. The duality or variety is created by Ishvara. That Ishvara is vikshepa, that Ishvara Srishti. By itself, Ishvara Srishti is not a problem. But when I give reality, that's the Jiva Srishti. So in the wise person, Jiva Srishti goes, the projection Kalpana goes. He sees things as they are, that's all. So Atmavit, Vikshep Dashavi, up. Sorry. Aprachyuta Atmayathatma darshanatvat. Atmayathatma darshanam. Darshanam, the seeing, knowledge of Atmayathatma, the true nature of Atma, aprachyuta, naingate. He does not fall from, does not get deviated, distracted from the darshanam, atma darshanam, by the darshan of the duality. The vyavahara taking place in the world of duality no more distracts him from the abidance in the self. Brahmavidam uttama ayameva. This one alone is the Brahmavidam uttama, most exalted even among the knowers of Brahman. So Brahma Jnanam is there, but Sapradibandakam, that when Viparita Bhavana comes, Dehata Uddhi comes, then again I fall back in the same trap. So knowledge is there, but Sapradibandakam Jnanam. When all Pratibandhas are gone, he is called Brahma Vidottama. He is the Brahma Uttama. He is Brahma Vidam Uttama. Most exalted even among the knowers of Brahman. Nanya, nobody else. Shastrarthajnobhyo vyavahara kale jnatrutva kartrutva abhimanavan ityartha. Shastrartha jnanam is there. When he is meditating, does not perform vyavahara, then he is very clear. When vyavahara comes, he gets thrown off. Because old habits of giving air to vyavahara causes him again distracted from his own swarupa. So, jnatrutva, I am jnata, I am karta, I am bhokta, these notions come back. He is not Jivan Mukta. He is not Brahmavidam Uttama. Itiha Nischaya. Iti Ittam. Iha Vedanta Shastre Vinischaya. Iha here Vedanta Shastre. The Vedanta Shastra. Iti Ittam, of this nature. Nischaya. This is the conviction, the conclusion of Vedanta Shastra. This is the teaching of Vedanta Shastra, purport of Vedanta Shastra, vision of Vedanta Shastra. Okay, we'll continue. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.